Welcome, everyone, to the Transformation Nurse Academy podcast. This is our weekly episode, Talk with Kevin, where we cover topics for all nursing fields with extra emphasis on emergency and critical nursing. Get ready for candid discussions that explore the vast landscape of nursing and beyond.
My name is Kevin. Today we're going to be talking about patient abandonment versus refusal of an unsafe assignment. This is a big topic going around because recently on TikTok I was watching a video by a PICU nurse named Alex. I won't tell you her last name or where she works, and she can do that for you and shit, but she talks about defending herself against refusing an unsafe patient assignment. She was a PICU nurse. She went in to work and there was, I don't know, I think she said 6 or 8, 10 patients, and she was going to be the only nurse. There was one other nurse who was been on work all day, and she can correct me if I'm wrong, but there was a nurse who called in sick. There was already a nurse on duty. She was going to give report to this nurse, and Alex is like, I'm not doing that shit. If I'm going to be the only one with 6 or 8 or 10 PQ patients, I'm not doing that. I'm fucking going home. First of all, I don't even understand why a supervisor or a supervisor nurse or a manager or whoever the hell's in charge would think that shit's okay. My advice to any nurse like Alex or any other nurse who's in that position where they're asked to take an unsafe assignment more than what you're supposed to that you can safely care for, you need to start reporting that nurse supervisor and the nurse manager and the CNO to the Board of Nursing. They have a nursing license too, and they can be held liable just like you and I can, and it's not appropriate for them to put that onus on us. So that's something that I think that we should start paying attention to when it comes to refusal of an unsafe assignment. So we're going to talk about this because it's very important. The American Nurses Association defines patient abandonment as a unilateral severance of the established nurse-patient relationship without giving reasonable notice to the appropriate person so that arrangements can be made for the continuation of nursing care by others. What the hell does that mean? It doesn't mean that when you come in and you're getting report and you've already accepted this, you haven't even accepted the assignment. You're just finding out about the kind of assignment like Alex did. You're trying to find out what's going on. You haven't even gotten report yet, and you're like, I'm not doing that shit. That is a refusal of an unsafe assignment, not abandonment. Abandonment means that you have taken report, you've accepted care of the patient, and there's many states that have written statements. And if your Board of Nursing hasn't written statements specifically outlining what abandonment is or isn't, either one, don't work for that state, or get up off your ass and start petitioning the Board of Nursing to come out with a position statement that will protect you and the nurses that are working there. For example, in the state of California, it says inquiries have been received by the Board of Registered Nursing regarding which actions by a nurse constitute patient abandonment and thus may lead to discipline against a nursing's license. Generally, for nursing abandonment to occur, the nurse must A, have first accepted the assignment, thus establishing a patient-nurse relationship, and then severed that nurse-patient relationship without giving reasonable notice to the appropriate person, i.e. the supervisor, the patient, so that arrangements can be made for the continuation of care of nursing by others. A nurse-patient relationship generally begins when responsibility for nursing care of a patient is accepted by the nurse. Failure to notify the employing agency that the nurse will not appear to work an assigned shift is not considered abandonment by the BRN, nor is a refusal to an accepted assignment considered patient abandonment. Now, once the nurse has accepted responsibility for the nursing care of the patient, severing of the nurse-patient relationship without reasonable notice may lead to discipline of the nurse's license. RNs must exercise critical judgment regarding their individual ability to provide safe patient care when declining or accepting requests to work overtime. A fatigued and or sleep-deprived RN may have diminished ability to provide safe, effective patient care. Refusal to work additional hours or shift would not be constituted as patient abandonment by the BRN. The RN who follows the above BRN advisory statement will not be considered to have abandoned the patient for the purposes of board disciplinary action. However, it should be noted that the BRN has no jurisdiction over employment and contract issues. So basically what you're saying is, yes, you have a right to refuse, but your employer also has a right to fire your ass. But would you rather get fired or lose your fucking license? I'll give you another state. This is in Nebraska. Nebraska was having issues, but they finally got smart. This is from Nebraska. Patient abandonment must be defined and differentiated from employer abandonment. Patient abandonment is a unilateral severance of established nurse-patient relationship without giving reasonable notice to the appropriate person so that arrangements can be made for continuation of nursing care by others. All they did was basically copy the A&A statement and shit. Then it says the same thing. For the patient abandonment to occur, the nurse must have first accepted the patient assignment, agreed to it, and then disengaged. So basically, they're following the A&As. Employer abandonment occurs when a nurse fails to give reasonable notice to an employer of her or his intent to terminate an employer-employee relationship. The following of examples of employer abandonment: the nurse fails to notify an employer and does not appear for scheduled work hours. In other words, you told them you were going to work, you didn't fucking come to work. So the nurse completes assigned work hours and then notifies employers that the employment relationship is being ended immediately. It says the Board of Nursing has no jurisdiction over employer abandonment or the employment relationship issue. So in other words, they're saying if I say, fuck you, I'm not coming to work, I don't want to work here no more, you could fire me, but you can't do shit about my license. You can report me to the board, but the board's saying they have no jurisdiction over employer abandonment or employee related issues. Both individual nursing leaders and nurses in patient care roles are accountable for providing safe nursing care, and both are subject to disciplinary recommendations by the boards. In other words, your fucking supervisor can get in charge too. Here's another one from Missouri. The Missouri State Board of Nursing believes that the provisions in Chapter 35 and its regulations reflect the state's public policy that its licensed nurse have a duty to faithfully serve the best interests of their patients. Patient abandonment may include, but not limited to, leaving a place of area of employment during an assigned patient care without reasonable notice, leaving the workplace without providing a patient status report to oncoming qualified personnel. Oh, so we talked about this recently. I think it was Maggie Ortiz and Nurse Erica talked about you giving a patient from ER to med surg without giving a report. You can fucking get in trouble for that. That could be constituted as abandonment. You can't just fucking let a patient go from ER to med surg without giving a report. How the fuck would you feel if you got a patient without a report? Showing lack of competent attention to or leaving a patient in acute distress without proper notification or appropriate personnel and without making appropriate arrangements. Making inadequate patient contacts, assessment, or interventions, either directly or indirectly through improper supervision, and sleeping while on duty can be constituted in the state of Missouri as patient abandonment. I'm okay with that shit. The Missouri State Board considers the following scenarios to be some examples of employer-employee issues, which therefore do not generally constitute patient abandonment. Failure to work beyond previously agreed work. So in other words, I'm not staying the fuck over 12 hours. Refusal to work in an unfamiliar, specialized, or high-tech patient area. In other words, I'm a med-surg nurse. I get floated to fucking ICU, and I say, I ain't doing that shit because I'm not an ICU nurse. That is not patient abandonment. Refusal to report to work is not constituted as patient abandonment. Failure to call an employer or arrive for assigned work. That is not patient abandonment. Now, you can get your ass fired for that, but they don't constitute it as patient abandonment. So that's like 3 states right there that we covered. I know we have more than 3 states, but I bet you if you go and you read most practice acts have, they have the definition of abandonment. Washington State. This is weird though. Washington State nursing laws and rules don't define patient abandonment. What the fuck's wrong with you, Washington? What's wrong with you, Washington State nurses? The Washington State Board of Nursing has investigated and disciplined nurses for issues surrounding the concept of abandonment as it relates to the nurse's duty to a patient. The Washington Board of Nursing applies to the licensed practical nurse, registered nurse, and the advanced NP. Some behavior may be considered employment issues and not patient abandonment. Well, how the fuck we know if you don't define that shit? So I don't understand that, Washington State. So you got to make sure that you understand what it is to refuse an unsafe assignment, right? So if you're refusing an unsafe assignment, it's because you either have the lack of training, the lack of experience. Maybe they're trying to put you in the ICU, like PICU. Maybe they're trying to give you 6, 8, 10 patients when you're by yourself. Some are ventilated, some are not. It doesn't make a difference. How the hell are you going to care for patients, 6 and 8 patients who are ventilated? Are you going to try to be a cowboy or cowgirl and say, oh, I can do that shit all by myself? It's horseshit. You're not doing justice for your patient, and you're not doing justice for your license. So this is something that nurses got to speak up about. And if your board of nursing doesn't have a statement against patient abandonment versus the right to refuse an unsafe assignment, speak the hell up, stand up, write your board, go contact the board, be a part of the meeting, and get it changed. You can't cry and say that it's not fair if you're not willing to stand up and change your own profession. Call your state board. Look at your policy of your hospital. What does it say? Sit on the policy and procedure committee and you write the policies that state that you can't take more than X amount of patients. If you really want to make a difference, we can do it. You just got to stand up and speak up and understand the rules and regulations. Here's another one. Here's Kentucky. So we talked about a few other ones already. So Kentucky talks about patient abandonment. So nurses have a professional and ethical obligation to provide for patient safety, avoid patient abandonment, and to withdraw only when assured that nursing care is available to the patient. While the terms abandonment and patient abandonment are not used in Kentucky nursing laws, so this is only an advisory opinion. It's not even fucking a law. In general, abandonment occurs when a nurse voluntarily removes him or herself from the care delivery without giving notice and without making effort to arrange for other qualified personnel to assume responsibility. Patient abandonment endangers the health, safety, and welfare of patients entrusted to nursing care. As a guide to nurses and employers, the board advises that in general, a nurse who has accepted responsibility for a patient assignment may leave the patient only after communicating the need to do so with the nurse's supervisor and exhausting all other reasonable and prudent efforts to place the care of the patient to another nurse. See, so they kind of don't really have a law, but they kind of define what abandonment is. And they say abandonment does not occur when healthcare providers do not have the necessary training or knowledge to continue treatment. Abandonment does not occur when healthcare providers do not have the supplies or resources to continue treatment. Ooh, I wonder if a nurse is a resource or a supply. Abandonment does not occur when a conflict of interest arises, when the patient violates the policy of the providers or behaving appropriately, meaning verbally or sexually abusing the provider. Patients repeatedly miss or cancel appointments. So I would use that to your advantage. See what I mean? So you got to think about your different laws. So look at your laws, look at your state, pick them up, and understand what is the difference between abandonment and refusal, a safe refusal of an unacceptable assignment, unsafe assignment. All right, you guys, I hope that you listen. I hope that you pay attention. I hope that you help each other, because it's bullshit that these managers and supervisors are trying to throw you and I under the bus because they got a fucking nursing license just like you. And guess what? They can be reported to the board of nursing as well. All right, bitches, pay attention. Change nursing, transforming one nurse at a time. This is Kevin with the Transformation Nurse Academy podcast. Again, visit us, transformationnurseacademy.com. Support our ass. Send us a like. Share it. Speak up. Peace, bitches.
Don't miss out. Engage with us weekly. Share your thoughts, and let's transform the nursing landscape together.